Welcome back, my dear learners. Now let's start with the first beautiful chapter of income tax laws, that is called Basic Concept of Income Tax Laws. Okay, so before starting basic concepts, let me tell you there are two types of taxes in India. Number one, it is called direct taxes, and number two, it is called indirect taxes. So let's understand what is this direct tax and what is this indirect tax. Direct tax, classic example is income tax. What do you mean by this? Say JK, okay, I'll give you an example. That is, say JK is a person who earns what income. For my income, I myself is paying my taxes to the government. This is called what? Direct tax. For my income, I'm paying my taxes, and this is called as what? Direct tax. We can say that as far as the definition, if tax is levied directly on income or wealth of a person, then it is a direct tax. On my income, tax is levied and I am supposed to pay the taxes. Everything is direct. For my income, I need to pay the taxes. That's it. It is called what? Direct tax, and the example is income tax. Now, what is indirect tax? Let me tell you, indirect tax simply means, say seller, he sells a goods worth 100 rupees. This is the value of goods. Okay? And there is a tax of 20 rupees. We can say tax, or we can say GST. Say 20 rupees is there. So, the buyer, when he buys that particular goods, is supposed to pay 100 along with another 20 rupees as taxes. And this amount will be collected by the seller. And what the seller do? Seller will take this rupees 100 because this 100 is for his goods. But he is collecting 120, right? So he will take that 100 to his pocket and he will pay that 20 rupees to the credit of what? Government. So seller is the person who's collecting the taxes and paying that particular taxes to the credit of government. And this is called as what? Indirect tax. These kinds of taxes are called indirect taxes. Classic example, your goods and service tax. Okay, so as far as the definition, if tax is levied on the price of a good or service, then it is an indirect tax. Example, goods and service tax or customs duty. In case of indirect taxes, the person paying the tax passes the incidence to some other person, because in our example, the person who pays the taxes is the seller, right? So seller collects that particular taxes from the buyer. So ultimately, seller only acts as an agent. He is passing the incidence of tax to the buyer and he is collecting the tax from the buyer and he is paying that particular tax collected to the credit of government. And this is what is called what? Indirect taxes. Got my point? So our area or our focus is only on income tax laws on these series of sessions. Okay. Now, let's continue from where our government got power to levy taxes. As you know, it is as per the Constitution. Let me tell you, as per Constitution, there are three types of lists. It is called Union List. Number two, State List. Number three, Concurrent List. What do you mean by Union List? Under Union List, the central government will frame laws. Under State List, the state government of each state will frame the laws. Under Concurrent List, both the central government and state government in a consultation, they will join their hands together and frame out laws. This is what is called the three lists of Constitution of India. So as per Union List, the central government has made income tax laws. So it is as per the Union List, our government is collecting taxes on income. That's what we can say. So that's what I was said. Entry 82 of Union List, that is List 1 in the 7th schedule to Article 246 of the Constitution of India has given power to the Parliament to make laws on taxes on income other than agricultural income. So simple terms we can say income tax is nothing but collecting taxes for your income, right? So this power for collecting this tax is given or it has been vested with the government as per the Constitution of India, entry number 82, which is under list number 1 of Constitution of India. That's what they are saying. This is simple introduction. This is not that important for your exam perspective. This is only for your understanding. Okay, to understand the origin of income tax. Now the question, I've repeatedly said income tax laws. Now you will have a doubt, sir, whether we have to study income tax laws or income tax act, or is there any difference between income tax act and income tax laws? Is there? Yes. So the components of income tax laws. Now let's understand what all are the components of income tax laws. So income tax laws consist of Income Tax Act 1961. So the act comes under the law. Again, Annual Finance Act, which is issued by the government every year. Okay. Then income tax rules are there. For administering Income Tax Act and the law, there are certain rules which is issued by the Central Board of Direct Taxes, who is the administering authority for direct taxes. So the CBDT normally issues income tax rules, and they will issue circulars and notifications for better clarity or clarifications on certain matters. And finally, the legal decision of courts, especially Supreme Court and High Court. So in an inter-level, you need to study Income Tax Act. Not the entire act, but selected few areas. And a few provisions of Annual Finance Act, then selected income tax rules, and certain very limited number of circulars, and legal decision of court, that means a High Court, Supreme Court decisions, etc. You don't need to cover in your inter level. When you are on your final level, you definitely need to undergo or study legal decision of courts, especially High Court and Supreme Court citations. Okay, so for the time being, what we have studied, quick roundup, we have seen that income tax, the power to collect income tax came as per the Constitution. And income tax law means Income Tax Act is there, Annual Finance Act is there, income tax rules are there, then circulars and notifications are there, and finally legal decision of court. So these are collectively called as what? Income tax laws. That is a summary of the story. Got my point? So let's continue. Now, levy of income tax. Let's understand the levy of income tax. So income tax is a tax levied on total income of the previous year of every person. This is a very, very important statement. So it says that income tax is levied on total income of the previous year of every person. So this statement is under section 4 of Income Tax Act. It says that income tax is nothing but taxes on your total income, right? Which should be paid in a particular previous year by every person. That's what they are saying. Now let's understand what is this total income, what is this previous year, what is this person. Okay, now we need to understand these three things. What is total income, what is previous year, and what is this person. Now let's move on with the definitions first. Okay, so starting with certain selected important definitions. The first definition, that is called person. Under section 2 clause 31 of Income Tax Act 1961, the act defines the word that is called person. Person includes. As per the strict definition of the act, it says that person includes. Again, let me tell you one thing. There are two kinds of definitions. Okay, it is called inclusive definitions and exhaustive definition. What is inclusive definition? Inclusive definition simply means, I'll give you one example. Say food includes chapati, biryani, rice, dosha, curry, sabji, masala dosha, idli, vada, etc., right? So it is an inclusive definition. That simply means you can keep on adding things to that particular definition of food, right? There are different kinds of food: fried rice, chili chicken, noodles, paneer butter masala, etc., right? So you can keep on adding list of items under that particular definition, which comes under food definition. So we can say that definition of food is an inclusive definition. Okay, so it's not complete, you can keep on adding. And what is exhaustive definition? The second nature of definition, that is called exhaustive definition. Complete definition. What is complete definition? There are 8 subjects for your CA Inter or CMA Inter or CS Inter, etc., You can say like that. So it is a complete definition because the subject is very conclusive, right? So there are only 8 subjects There is no 9 subject, only 8 subject in your CA, CMA or CS Inter. That's we can say. So, two types of definitions are there in the Income Tax Act. It says, number one, inclusive definition, unending definition. Number two, exhaustive definition. That means complete definition. So, the definition for person is an inclusive definition. That means they are only saying person includes an individual. Individual simply means what? A natural person. You, me, etc. Okay. Then HUF. What is HUF? Hindu undivided family. Hindu undivided family. So a Hindu undivided family, they are carrying out a family business, right? Then what is this company? Company means a company which is incorporated as per Companies Act 2013 or 1956. Simply means a separate legal person. A company can also be called as a person. Now next item is firm. Firm means a partnership firm as well as a limited liability partnership. Both can be called as what? A person. Now the next one is AOP or BOI. It simply means association of persons or body of individuals. What do you mean by association of persons? That means AOP. It simply means what? Say there is a joint venture which consists of an individual, one individual, a company and a partnership firm. They have entered into a joint venture. Okay, and they can be called as AOP, association of different persons, because there is one individual, one company and one partnership firm is there. These three combined can be called as what? A joint venture. And in income tax, from the perspective of income tax, it can be called as an association of different persons mentioned under 231. And now what is BOI? BOI simply means body of individuals. 3 individuals. They started a joint venture and they were doing business. Not JK, it is JV, joint venture, and they were doing business. So this can be called as what? From the perspective of income tax, it can be called as what? Body of individuals. Okay. So AOP, BOI, both can be called as a person. Now the next is local authority. What is local authority? Local authority is nothing but what? It can be called as your panchayat, municipality, or your Grama Panchayat, village, corporation, municipality, etc. can be called as what? Your local authority. And what is this artificial jurisdictional person? Artificial jurisdictional person means any other person who has an existence in the eyes of law. You cannot call it as a separate legal entity. It can be called as any other person who exists in the eyes of law. Say, simple example, deities, your gods. Say Jesus Christ or Rama or Krishna, etc. Okay, Sri Ram, Krishna, etc. Definitely can be called as AJPs, artificial jurisdictional person. Okay, so that is a classic example for AJP. So there are different kinds of persons: individual, HUF, company, firm, AOP, BOI, local authority, artificial judicial person. Okay, again DT means simply in the eyes of law, there is Jesus Christ, there is Sri Krishna, there is Sri Ram, there is Allah. So it is like that. So that is called as artificial jurisdictional persons. Normally this temple, etc. will be treated as a separate artificial jurisdictional person. In the eyes of law, there is a person, and that is what is called AJP. So this is the classic definition for persons. So again, it is an inclusive definition. Now let's move on to the next definition. That is the most relevant definition. It is called classes of companies. We have seen companies, right? Company simply means a company which is incorporated as per the Companies Act 2013 or 1956 or any other act. So it says that there are two kinds of company, that is called domestic company and a foreign company. What do you mean by this? There are two classes of companies. Number one, there is domestic company, and number two, there is foreign company. And now let's understand what exactly is this domestic company. First, domestic company means simply it's an Indian company. And what is Indian company? Indian company means a company which is incorporated as per Companies Act 2013 or 1956. So that is what is called an Indian company. A company which is incorporated as per the laws of India, it is called as what? Indian company. Or there is one more set. A company which has made arrangement for declaring and paying dividend out of income chargeable to tax in India. If I am a company who is earning profits from India and also I am declaring my dividend in India, then I will be called as a domestic company. That's what the act says. So domestic company can be either an Indian company or a company who earns income in India and also declares that particular income in India can also be called as a domestic company. Now the question comes, what is foreign company? Foreign company, simple. Any company other than domestic company can be called as a foreign company in the eyes of law. That's what they are saying. A company which is not a domestic company can be called as a foreign company. So second definition, that is called classes of companies, a domestic company and a foreign company. Domestic company means what? An Indian company or a company which is in India who earns profits from India and declares that particular dividend in India as well. That company can also be called as a domestic company. So apart from these two categories of company, every company can be called as what? A foreign company. That's what the Act says. Now let's move on to the most important definition in income tax. It is called income definition in section 2 clause 24. If you can go and refer this income definition in the Income Tax Act, it is a very huge definition and it is an inclusive definition as well. So the question is, do we have to by heart these definitions? No. First of all, let me be very clear. You don't need to by heart these particular definitions. Then, sir, why are you wasting time discussing these definitions? Because this definition, you need to know what exactly is this definition. You need to familiarize what exactly is the definition. Then only you'll be able to conceptually grasp or understand every other provisions which are important for your examinations. Okay, so that's what is the purpose of discussing these particular definitions in the classes. You don't need to by heart these definitions. Okay. Now let's understand what is this income definition. I'm not trying to explain what exactly is income, because income, again, it is an inclusive definition as per Income Tax Act. So rather than moving on to the definition, let me tell you the nature of income. Okay, so in the first, when we started our classes itself, I've told you, income tax is nothing but taxes on income, right? It is taxes on income. Now the question is, what is this income? Income simply means, as per income tax laws, income means all revenue receipts. All revenue receipts and specifically provided capital receipts. What do you mean by this revenue receipts and specifically provided capital receipts? Revenue receipts simply means a receipt which is keep on coming. Say for example, I can say salary. Every month I'll get salary. Keep on recurring. Or business income. What is business income? Every sale I'll get or earn some profits or I'll get some income. So there is a continuity of earning that particular income, and that is called as what? Revenue receipts. So as per the income tax laws, we can call every revenue receipt can be called as what? An income. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying for every revenue receipt you need to pay taxes. It is not like that. My point is very clear. Every revenue receipts can be called as income as per income tax laws. Now there is one more question. Sir, do we need to pay taxes for every income? That I will tell you later. Okay, first of all, let me complete the definition of income. Then I will tell you what all incomes are taxable in India. Okay, that we will consider it later. For the time being, what is income? All revenue receipts can be called as income according to or in the perspective of income tax laws. Now, what is the specifically provided capital receipts? Capital receipts is any receipt other than revenue receipt, right? Say for example, I'm winning a lottery. It is not every month or every week I'm winning a lottery. At times, we cannot predict different times. I can win a particular lottery. Or I'm selling my house property to some other person. So, will I sell my property every week? No. If I'm doing that, then I'm doing it as a business. Okay. So, otherwise we can call these two transactions as what? Capital receipts. Example, selling of lottery, selling of your house property, selling of your land, selling of your gold, etc. can be called as capital receipts because it won't recur. Okay, so the recurrence will be less. So specifically provided capital receipts can also be called as income for the purpose of income tax. So that the point is what? All capital receipts are not taxable if that particular capital receipt is specifically provided in the Income Tax Act. Then only you need to pay taxes, or you can be consider it as an income. Are you with me? Very simple. All revenue receipts can be always called as income for the purpose of income tax. Number 2, specifically provided capital receipts can also be called as what? Income for the purpose of income tax. So 2 things is the basic nature of income. For a better understanding, I have written certain examples and certain situations of this particular nature of income in your PDF material which has given to you. So you can refer that particular table again. These table etc. are not that important for your exam. It is only for the purpose of understanding. You need to know while studying income tax, you need to know what is income, right? So only for the purpose of understanding I have written in an elaborate manner. Otherwise, it is not that important for your exam. Okay. Again, so what we are saying, capital receipts versus revenue receipts. Revenue receipts simply means what? All recurring receipts. Capital receipts means what? Other than revenue receipts, it can be called as what? Capital receipts. Okay. Again, let me tell you one more thing. Let's move on to the next definition. That is called what? Maximum marginal rate. So the next definition under Income Tax Act is MMR. It is called as MMR. That is maximum marginal rate. So it is a very simple definition. For the time being, just stick on to the definition. I will tell you what exactly is the definition when we move forward. Okay. So MMR means the rate of income tax including surcharge on income tax, if any applicable in relation to the highest slab of income in the case of an individual, AOP, BOI, as the case may be, as specified in the Finance Act of a relevant year. Say in a very common layman's language, I can say MMR is nothing but it is the highest rate of tax applicable for individual or AOP or BOI for a particular income. Say in a simple manner, we can say the highest rate of tax for a particular income can be called as MMR. It is only definition. Okay, the objective of the definition, the purpose of definition, I will take it later. Why? Because you need to know what is the basic rate of taxes. You need to know what is the surcharge. You need to know what is the education cess, etc. So for the time being, in a common layman's point, it is very simple. MMR means what? The maximum rate of taxes applicable for a particular income. That is more than enough for the time being. Okay. So let's move on to the next definition, that is called as the previous year assessment year. Very, very important definition. What do you mean by previous year? Say, let's go through that particular written textbook definition. It says that the term has been defined under section 3. It means that financial year immediately preceding the assessment year, as mentioned earlier, the income earned during the previous year is taxable in the assessment year. Now it says the year preceding the assessment year is said to be previous year. Now, what is assessment year? Don't say it like this. Sir, previous year means year preceding the assessment year. Then I'll ask you, what is assessment year? Then you're saying, sir, year follows after previous year is called as assessment year. Is it so? No. It says that the term has been defined under 2 clause 9. This means a period of 12 months commencing on 1st April every year. And the year in which the income is earned is the previous year, and such income is taxable in the immediately following year, which is the assessment year. Income earned in the previous year 18-19 is taxable in the assessment year 19-20. What do you mean by this? Let's go back to the simple common layman's understanding. Now let's understand what is this previous year and what is this assessment year. Previous year means what? Say always we follow a year which starts with April. Normal, our year starts with April of a particular calendar year and it ends with 31st March of a calendar year. Okay, so the year, previous year simply means the year in which income is earned. Say 2019-20. In this period, that means from 1st April 2019 to 31st March 2020, say I have earned rupees 10 lakhs. So we can also say that this 10 lakhs is earned by Mr. JK in the period between 1st April 2019 and 31st March 2020, and it is called the previous year. Okay, now what is this assessment year? Assessment year simply means the year in which I am supposed to assess my tax, I am supposed to calculate my tax, I am supposed to pay my tax. It is as what called assessment year. Say simply for the year, for this 10 lakhs which is accrued in 1920, I must pay taxes in 2021. I must compute my taxes and pay my taxes in 2021. It is called what? Assessment year. So simply we can say the year in which we are assessing our tax or paying our taxes is called the assessment year. And what is previous year? The year in which income is earned. And assessment year, the year in which we are paying taxes for that particular income. It is as called as what? Assessment year. So PY, AY. Never forget. Okay. PY, previous year. AY, assessment year. PY, year in which income is earned. AY, year in which you are paying your taxes for the income earned. Say, again, let me give you some examples. So for the assessment year 2022-23, I'll pay taxes, right? And what is the previous year for this assessment year? So PY is simple 2021-22. So on every income which I have accrued in 21-22, I'm paying my taxes in 22-23. It is as simple as that. You don't need to focus. It is a relative definition. If you say what is previous year, I can say what is assessment year. Or if you say what is assessment year, I can say what is previous year. Got my point? It is a relative definition. Comparable definition. Okay. So that's what the definition is called, PY, AY definition. Now the question, we have gone through certain definitions. Right? Now let me summarize each and every topic which we have discussed till now. So we have started with income tax laws. And what is income tax? It is simple but taxes on your income. Okay. Now we need to know what is income. Okay. Income and taxes. What is income? We have said every revenue receipt and specifically provided capital receipts. It can be called as income. Now, one simple question will come into your mind. Sir, do we need to pay taxes for every income? No. For taxing an income, there are certain rules for taxing a particular income in India that we will cover in the later part of this video. For the time being, we have just completed what is income. Okay. And we will study what is taxes in a later session. Okay. So, that's what we have covered till now. And thank you for watching the video.